Sleeves here with the Senior Pickleball Report powered by TNC Network. Let's get it going. Today in our People of Pickleball series, we speak with actor Michael Toe. Michael has been in television shows like Law & Order. He's been on the big screen in Hocus Pocus 2 and Free Guy. He's currently starring on Apple TV in a show called City on Fire. And he is playing in the APP Tour Team League for the Humana Cup with Lee Whitwell. So he's a pro and talks about how pickleball has really kind of changed his life in a lot of ways and helped him deal with some tragic events, which we'll get to in his life as well. So before we start that, though, let's go over things that you should be aware of. Obviously, down in the description, tons of discounts. You can subscribe to our newsletter. And always like this video and subscribe to the channel as well. And check out our merch page as well. Some discounts in there. All right, folks, let's get to that discussion. Great interview with actor, pickleball player, Michael Toe. Actor Michael Toe, welcome to the Senior Pickleball Report, Mike.
Hey, Sleeves, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, lots to talk about. Obviously, been all over the small screen, the big screen. Currently in a show that I watched episode 1 last night, City on Fire on Apple TV. It's got me hooked already. Really cool opening episode. So we'll get to all of that. But let's talk about really because, this is a pickleball report and this game has swept the nation and is going global very fast. But talk about how it captivated you because, you're a busy guy and this is a game that pulls everybody in from all walks of life.
Well, yeah. So I was a tennis player, played in college. My family's a family of tennis players. Okay. My sister was a world-ranked tennis player and she's a professional now and on the regular tour. And so my brother, during COVID 2 years ago, late at the end of COVID, he set up we had a family dinner and he set up, in his driveway with chairs no net. So we had chairs for the net. Since then we were hooked. And so we started to find out ways to play the game and different ways to, get started. But then, and as we got rid of maybe about 2 months in, I ended up having, an injury and it's out for about 6-7 months. Maybe it was 3 months in and then out for 6-7 months. So what happened was my sister got way ahead of it. And but she's a great player, but it's been great because what's been happening is she's been a great person for me to kind of take the steps for, as you learn the switch off to not just do the third shot drives and adding some drops and working on, at all the parts of the game as we evolve and learn it. She was 6 months ahead. So it was a perfect scenario. So every time that I got to another level of something, she's like, well, this is what I went through. And sure enough, I then dealt with what she dealt with, that 6 months later. And so right. We're hooked. I'm on the APP Humana Cup team, league. Right. And that's been, really a dream come true to play a professional sport.
Yeah, obviously, playing at the APP level with the champion senior pros is no joke. You have to have some game to play there. Otherwise, you're just going to get embarrassed. And people don't have any problem embarrassing people at that level because, it's just part of how it works. It's the mental and the physical kind of combined. So obviously, you come from a background of racket sports and, I talked about, your family and stuff like that. What has really been, though, sort of the biggest thing you've had to change about your game? Because this is a different sport. And people find that out pretty quick, even if they have an extensive racket background in some other sports. So what was the biggest real challenge for you coming from tennis?
It was really about just the fact of not just resorting to power and how much is a factor, the consistency, the angles. Not that that's not an issue for tennis, but but really kind of controlling kind of the depth of shots and not always keeping people back, but then the vice versa too. Times when you're on a speed up and you can and actually the better speed up actually is something where you can take a little off pace a little bit.
Right.
Those things were, it's counterintuitive, in general. Like tennis, once it's up in the air, you're gonna put all your power in and put that ball away. And usually when you're putting it away, it's not coming back. But this game we're here, it's like, you're gonna have people who are so fast hand speed coming right back at you. And so now all right, well, now it's not just about just hitting it hard. It's and the points, I kind of talk about it with tennis. Sometimes you have those amazing points that you see that, the person dives and this, and it jumps and the ball's up and the person runs across. Right. That happens in tennis in kind of the, average level of tennis, maybe every once in a while. That happens every game for pickleball.
It does. Sometimes every point.
Yeah. Right. So that's what I've noticed a lot.
Right. Very cool. So obviously, the APP Humana Cup is new this year, and the senior game has really sort of exploded. If you look at people that are playing 50 plus, obviously there's a lot of opportunities. I would argue there's more opportunities for really senior champion level players to play in leagues and tours than there are for the open pros. I mean, if you look at obviously the Senior Pro Tour, which started last year, National Pickleball League, Humana Cup, and you can play the APP in their draw tournaments at the senior level, and the PPA as well. What are your thoughts really as the game grows, really sort of being someone who's in an age group where there are all these opportunities? For me, at being in my 50s, it's almost surreal that we have these opportunities as people who is sort of our second time around at a sport. And we kind of get to relive some of our youth, but in a completely new way, in a completely new avenue. I'm sort of in awe of all the opportunities that have really arisen over the last, year to 2 years, just for, people in my age group. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I agree. So I turned 50 last year, and so this is so I'm on the young side, and to me, I looked at it as opportunity.
Yeah,
think my level, if it was combined, I probably would not be able to get into the senior pro, to be competitive. And, but what happened because there's so many different opportunities, it's widened the gap a little bit in terms of level. And to me, that's an opportunity as someone who's growing and getting better literally every week. I'm learning, new things.
Yeah.
I'm really focused. And that's a big part of my journey has been really taking this very seriously to and kind of, I have probably a little bit of a different approach than most, or maybe a little bit too, very intense approach of kind of trying to, but for someone who's getting better, but still has a long way to go, it's been a great opportunity for me. And to be able to now play with, Lee and I played in our first match back in Punta Gorda. Looking forward to, 6 different events this year, coming in and playing some great competition, some really good players, people who've been playing, many of the players have been playing longer than me. And so I've been learning so many, just the shot selection, the mentality of using the rules to the advantage of, with the ref and understanding it's the nuances there that could be a difference, 1 or 2 points here that might change the thing, or maybe a mentality switch that could change to get a point here. And then that could be the difference between 11-9 or 9-11. So it's been really eye-opening. I've only had one, but I can't wait for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. You when you talk about the nuances of the game, especially at the level you're playing at right now, it reminds me of the Queen's Gambit when I was watching the film, and she would lay in bed and she would play chess on the ceiling in her head to do all these moves. And I'm starting to literally do that when I go to bed at night, because I consume pickleball all day. I watch a ton of matches, specifically at the senior pro level, because that's the level I want to get to as well. And I start thinking about this. God, if I move my drop just a half inch, 6 inches to a foot over this way, so they can't reach, or they're overextending for that person who's trying to poach. So little things like that going through my head, and it's unbelievable because you watch this game on TV and you're like, God, that looks pretty basic, it's pretty simple. I could do that, And but when you get in there and then you start playing people at that level, and you're dealing with one of the masters, Lee, no doubt, the little things which you've discussed make a huge difference. And so that's a part of the game I really enjoyed. I've never been a puzzle solver person in my life, but this is really sort of it. It reminds me of learning a musical instrument, which I took up recently too in the last 5-6 years. All the little things, the nuances, the things nobody sees or pays attention to while they're watching it, that make up this game. And it's endless. You're never going to conquer it. But I think that's the ultimate chase about it.
Exactly. And there's so much to learn. But at the same time, back to that point of opportunity right now, as there's a lot of different choices for senior pros.
Yeah.
I don't that might not be the case down the road. And then you're also going to get the people who are these kind of mid late 40s who are at a really really solid level that will be years coming to the game with multiple years of playing on the younger side too. So to me, this is like, all right, there's a small window for me to really kind of in and take that opportunity. This is similar to my acting journey, is that if I can't do the opportunity is there, but I can't just jump in 50%, but not to the level that I want. And so to me, this is like, all right, here's the opportunity. You're shown the door. Do whatever you can to get your game to that level. And where I will be at the end of the year, if continue the way I'm training, will be a lot better than where I am right now.
Absolutely. And we could talk about that with acting. Obviously, it's a craft as well that you work on all the time, and different opportunities to work with high level people, whether they're writers, directors, or fellow actors. Talk a little bit about how you're doing this with, you're balancing a pretty interesting life here, because you're on location a lot, I would assume, and finding places to play and people to play with when you're in a place long term. Let's say you're on a film set for X amount of time. Talk about some of the challenges and some of the balancing and some of the motivation of playing this game and being a professional actor and dealing with family. Obviously, you got to find time for all these things.
Yeah, well actually, I'm a financial planner. I know financial planning practice, and about 15 years ago, acting was my kind of my balance. And but I lived in Boston, and that you're not the main hubs is Hollywood and New York. But the way I looked at it was, hey, I actually am drivable to New York, 4 hours away. Here's a chance to I could be in anywhere in the country, but to be drivable here, instead of looking at it as a negative, I looked at it as a positive. Hey, I could do this if I really wanted to. So I kind of just worked my way up, and it was one of those things where I kept saying, all right, well, let's see what next level I can do. But if I do it, and I'm going to take this time, it's my time is precious with my family, my daughters, my wife, and work. I can't take it half-assed. I have to really, really do it. If it's otherwise, it's going to stay a hobby. And I kind of took that approach by really studying and really honing my craft, not just from the craft side, which I always my shoulder that I didn't have the same training as other people, because I came into it in my 30s, but then coming into it with a mentality of I just need to learn I need to catch up and learn as much as I can and work harder than people, because if I don't, how am I going to compete to someone who's been doing it for a lot longer than me and who's has the theater conservatory. And so that kind of is what the way I've taken my acting career, and it's done really well last 6 years. It's gone to a national level, and so I kind of take that same approach with pickleball, and to me, it's the ability to balance a lot of these different things. And so if I can go on set, I was on set last night on a show called Raising Canaan on Stars, and but when I can go there and then all of a sudden have a conversation with some of the other actors about pickleball, we kind of go, and I bring my paddles.
Right on.
There's been a few times where, people they've heard about it, they've never tried it. So I'm like, and there's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
So I take out the paddles and we kind of, there's a few scenarios where we've, kind of taught them how to play. But then there are other sets. Law and Order, I was on with Chris Maloney, who is a top athlete, but who's into really getting into pickleball, and so we kind of went off, during different shoots one day, and then kind of went to hit, and different play, and kind of here's something where about acting, but now the flip side is I can teach them all about pickleball, and so it was a great. And it's been really fun. And it's a sport that so many people are so excited about, wanting to learn more, or if they're into it, they're passionate about it. They are passionate. And right away, you've mentioned it. There'd be so many different types of people from all different lives, but we can combine together with this one love of pickleball commonality. Hard to to make bridge, kind of bridge that, the differences there, and pickleball has been fantastic for that. So whenever I'm on set, I try to kind of bring in the pickleball side while doing the acting stuff that I love, and to me that's a perfect balance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, everybody's jumping in on it, and I think you touched on a very important point, which I try and bring up in most interviews if I can, is the communal side of this game, and where we are in the world right now, and we are desperately in need, I think, of some connection, with one another again. And a game that popped up, been around at that point 50 plus years, and then the pandemic hits and it really explodes. I think really, kind of testifies to that we are yearning, not only because there was a pandemic, but social media, we're all in our devices, we're all living these kind of bubble lives. And then to walk outside on a court and do this activity of a game that, has a really nice entry level point. Like you can get pretty good pretty quick and know what you're doing is pretty amazing. And I'm still blown away by because my wife taught this game in PE, I was she told me about it 20 years ago. And I was like, oh, that sounds cute. She just didn't want her kids to have to chase a tennis ball over the fence because they couldn't control it. And I never thought anything of it. But then, like anybody else, you think back and you're like, God, if I would have started 20 years ago, just think what I could be now,
Exactly. Oh,
yeah. So I love that you bring that up, and, you can have these conversations and these, pickleball dates with, people that you're going out and working with, and kind of bounce ideas off each other about each other's game. And then obviously, having the acting in common as well. Sleeves here with the Senior Pickleball Report, reminding you to check out our podcast, People of Pickleball. That's where I speak with all the people in pickleball, the industry, players, team owners, apparel creators, people that run organizations, people that create apps, you name it. We're talking to them on People of Pickleball. It's in the playlist of our YouTube channel. It's our podcast. Check it out. Lots of good information there. And lots of really cool folks doing amazing things. You can also catch our podcast on Spotify and Amazon. Check out the link in the description. Talk about a little bit, I watched City on Fire last night on Apple TV, and I watched episode 1 in the hopes of seeing you. But then I looked further down, and you're a couple episodes in. Yeah. Yeah, and obviously, what's happened in your life and that role, well, you can talk about it, but I couldn't watch that show in that episode, knowing what I know and react to it the same way. So talk a little bit about your experience with that.
Thank you. So my daughter, Alana, passed away a year and a half ago, a year and 4 months ago. And I got this role, my first series regular on City on Fire, an Apple TV show. And it talks about I play the character of a dad whose daughter gets in a scenario and is in the hospital, and you call and having to have that, having that crazy trip to the hospital, and daughter with her head bandaged up, which is exactly the same way Chase Sweet Wonders, who's the actor who played my daughter, she had this bandage on her head. She got not my daughter, but my daughter in a car accident. But it has the same scenario. And in Fire, there was so much. It was life imitating art.
Yeah,
this was all around this hospital room in the show was pictures of my daughter. I have 3 daughters, but it was my pictures was my daughter Alana, who had passed, and to me it was fate that I was to have, that this was going to happen, and then this was a way to prepare me, because as an actor I have to put myself in a scenario. Well, what happens if your daughter gets in an accident where she could die? And it was, and literally when we finished shooting a month later, my daughter got in the accident, and the same scenario, the same rushing to the hospital. In this case, it was in New York, same scenario, rushing through the street of New York. In this case, it was the Mass Pike to New York. The head bandages, the same conversations with the doctors, the same looking at rays. I had everything that I experienced as a parent, my wife and I, the worst nightmare. It happened to me 3 months prior on a TV show, and I don't. That's coincidence. And she was out of my 3 daughters, she was my tennis player, and she was the one. I was her coach and trained her, and we went to tournaments together, and all the times on the court, a lot of times it was a love-hate relationship where it was, having, it was like, all right, you got to drill more, and you got to hit that work. And we would have all those battles. And I tried with my daughter, I tried to get her into pickleball, and she never did. Didn't seem to be that supportive of my pickleball journey. However, the Father's Day before she passed, she had a happy Father's Day.
Yeah.
And she wrote, she goes, here, Dad, happy Father's Day. It's so crazy that I can call you a famous Asian American actor and professional pickleball player. And I was an actor, and not a professional actor. But she meant that as a pickleball player, because I'm a teaching professional.
Yeah.
I use that as a drive for me to be a professional playing player, and all that message to me, and that was my message from her, that this is the right path. This is the path that I wanted to go on, and I use that as a drive when I go down and 5 a.m. and get my training partners, grill, and kind of do sometimes 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 times a day to kind of on the skills that I need to get to the pro level. And it was the drive from my daughter that really kind of keeps me motivated. And that's why it was so special when Lee drafted me. When that happened, A few months ago, it felt like my daughter who was there and saying, this, you worked hard for this. Uh, this is the right path. It's been so healing for me. And my family, my wife has picked up the sport too, and she's not been an athlete really much of her life, and you can see the smile that she has when she has a game coming up, or when she talks about pickled somebody yesterday, and how excited she was. And this is a family that was a year ago, dealing with the worst thing, one of the worst things a parent could ever deal with. And drive and focus that pickleball really, I think, saves. A lot of times when things like this happen, tragedies like this happen, you can have paths that you could go down. And one of the paths can be a pretty negative,
sure,
very dark path. But pickleball was the opposite. It provided a goal, something that kind of gets the endorphins going, something a reason to wake up every day, a reason to kind of get back, to get healthy, to focus on something, not just every day, the things that we're going through at life. And when you're playing pickleball, for that, 15-minute game that you're playing, really can't be thinking much else.
Right.
Sure, things kind of going in your brain that might be in the background, but really you're focused so much on the game that for someone who loses a child, I needed that space. I needed that space to away from life to focus on something else, and I think that was really helpful to help my healing. And it's a never ending thing that I'm going to have to deal with, tragedy that I'm going to have to deal with. But I think pickleball has really helped me get through, and my family get through these really, really tough times. And then when you see a letter like that from my daughter, it just ties in that is the path for me, and that's why I train so hard. I know I have a long way to go, but I know compared to where I'm now, I'm going to be a lot better.
Yeah.
And the people who might have been able to beat me, the last few months, we'll see if they can beat me at the end of the year.
Right.
You get it. I say that in a positive way. I see it in a driven way, competitive way, but it's the drive. It's not really about the win. It's just more about using it as a drive to have a goal that takes me a little bit away from what happened.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing, Michael. And you hit on, I think, so many really good points. And one of them obviously is I think it's hard in this day and age to be present, and that the game gives us that sort of that gift, even if it's for 15 minutes or a few points. Because you're right, if you're not present in that moment, I'm just not good enough to be not present and not get pegged or drop 6-7 points in a row. I mean, it happens so fast in this game. I've never played a sport that had momentum shifts of this magnitude. And so being present, and you brought up obviously, the things we talked about, but what you've done is you've entered, and you know this, you've entered a community of people that there's a community of people within it. I cover senior pickleball. I'm the only person really specifically covering senior pickleball. It's an unusual niche, but what I have found is that you, like you said, you work hard, you train, you compete hard, you guys are at war on the court. But at the end of the day, it's this group of people, and a lot of these people are new to our lives. And they have stories too, some tragic, some beautiful, and all the above, that really sort of just kind of enrich the experience of, hitting this wiffle ball around. So again, I'm totally blown away by what has happened with this game and how it's entered our lives. And I don't take it as light as I used to. I just kind of thought in the beginning, like, oh, this is really cool. And it's, it might be a thing and it might go away after a while. But the more I talk to people and the more I play and the more people I meet and the community of the senior pros, I don't know, there's just more to this. And I'm so excited to see where it goes for not only myself, but people like yourself who are doing amazing things in the world of entertainment and obviously bringing your competitive juices and flow and creative energies to the court, because it is a creative game and it demands creativity on some level. So yeah, that's my little rant or whatever you want to call it. But I feel a connection. And I when I talk to people like you, it just reminds me like, gratefulness, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So,
yeah, I mean, how lucky is it that, when you're at a scenario where you're losing or you lose a few points or, losing against a team that maybe you should have beat or missed a shot. And then you kind of take a step back. I'm like, hey, there are way worse things in life.
Right.
And to be able to like make that as what I'm a little bit upset about at that particular moment, playing a game that's great for my health and with the community and friends and the competitive spirit and all that sort of thing. Like there are worse things than that. Overhead into the net, So,
right. Which is going to happen a lot anyway. So you got to kind of accept that inevitability.
and then what that might mean is an hour training session tomorrow, the next morning, to make sure that doesn't go over the net. But then, hey, that's another step.
Right. Exactly. Well, Michael, it's early 2024. Obviously, you've got a lot on your plates, pickleball wise, and obviously in your career. So talk about what you're looking forward to for the rest of this year, and we'll get you out of here.
Yeah. Well, lots of things. A lot of things mixing with TV and film and acting, and with pickleball. I have the NPL Combine coming up in Florida in the beginning of March.
Yes.
Going to hit to the Sacramento. That's come back on Sunday. Wednesday, head to Sacramento for the Team Whitwell and playing with Lee.
Yay.
A lot of fun. And then I go back to DC, right from Sacramento to this DC to shoot a film that I'm a lead in. That I'll shoot for 2 weeks in DC. And I already lined up pickleball places I've already found out pickleball places. And, this is that's the community that we're in, right? I don't know.
Right.
By the end of the 2 weeks, I'm going to have connections with people that I will know for years down the road.
Right.
Popping in at a being invited to some of these games and these places. So, and then Delray, and so that's just the next few months. It's a lot of things going on. I'm with everything that we've gone through, I think I'm in a pretty good place. I think I'm fortunate to be in this place now. It could have been a lot worse, and a lot of a lot of things going on, and I'm excited for it.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time. This has been Michael Toe. He is an Hollywood actor. He's been on television. He's been on the big screen. You can find links in the description all about him. He's professional pickleball player at the senior pro level, looking to expand into multiple tours and leagues. And you can check him out currently at City on Fire on Apple TV. I watched episode 1. It is really, really good show. It'll grab you right away. So check that out and check out Michael's work below. And I appreciate your time and your sharing.
Please, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Hope you enjoyed our interview with Michael. Thanks, Michael, for your time, and look forward to seeing him out on the court and on the small and big screen as well. Subscribe to that newsletter, folks, and hey, at the end of the day, let's pickle.